Top Lobster Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Netflix.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds, and wanna wake up to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobster.
I like the loudness of the intro.
Can you stop stepping on my intro,
We're
dude?
back.
The
It's
father
nice.
of interrupting my intro. Before we get into today's guest, a little reminder, sometime around the 30-minute mark, we're going to go live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Enjoy the rest of this episode, engaging in the live chat, early access to episodes, ad-free viewing and listening experiences for all you crybabies out there who think that they're entitled to our labor for free.
Calm down.
What else is on there? You can gain early access to Bohemian Grove tickets when they drop.
That's right. I took it off the screen.
Why'd you do that?
Because we'll talk about, and then you could buy shirts and all that
discount
stuff.
code off merchandise from toplobster.com.
Yada, yada,
Pick
yada.
yourself up a shirt. It's a really cool shirt. I got my Fear Not shirt on.
Let's just get into, who cares?
Okay, fine. Joining us today is Jordan Crowder, here to unpack a very important subject, one that's near and dear to my heart. Top gets exhausted with it, but I can't get enough of it. Before we talk about 3i Atlas, which is very important, we got to talk about where we can find Jordan and what it is Jordan do. So where can we find you, brother?
What do you do?
What I do today, I do talking to you guys, man. Thanks y'all for having me. I love your show. You guys rock. And my name's Jordan. I'm just sort of people call me an intuitive investigator, but I have a podcast called Conscious Observers. And I just explore wild topics and go deep on some wild. And one of the things that I go deep on is this 3i Atlas thing. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about this.
Ooh,
very cool.
First off, very nice website.
It is. He appreciates a nice website.
Yes,
Top Lobster.
I like the cleanness of it. It's much better than ours that doesn't exist. 5D printing manifestation code. Man, okay. So we'll get into a lot of this stuff here, and also, guys, go follow him on X as well. This is where I think I found out about you. I've been seeing a lot of stuff you've been tweeting, and I'm like, all right, this guy's kind of fun.
Guys, go check out Jordan Crowder. And look, man, this 3i Atlas thing is a lot of fun. It's really strange. It kind of got on our radar with one of the early New York Post articles where they said this thing was hostile. They determined that in some way, shape, or form. It was an amalgamation of the New York Post reporting on it, but also Anna Paulina Luna, who has become, tied into this whole situation. Avi Loeb as well.
The things around 3i Atlas give me extreme pause.
That's a good way
Let me
to
just
put
say
it.
that. Yeah, I'm just very suspicious, or the people who are talking about it, what it's doing, how we know it's doing what it's doing. What do you know about it? Let's just get into it. I gotta know.
Yeah. Well, there's so much nonsense out there. First of all, but it's fun because this thing is very mysterious, and it's like clickbait heaven, dude. Like it's doing all the weirdest things you could ever imagine. It's very mysterious. No one has any idea what the hell's going on, so it's perfect for conversation. But from what we can tell, it more than likely is an interstellar comet. So they call it 3i Atlas because it's the third interstellar. That's what 3i means. It's the third interstellar object that we've been able to observe and track. It's called Atlas because Atlas was the observation system that detected it. We have this system called Atlas. It's really crazy. And it just scans the night sky every single night and looks for things that shouldn't be there. Like we know where everything's supposed to be. Everything's pretty predictable. We live in a closed system in the solar system. Everything goes around the sun. We can follow orbits and trajectories pretty cleanly. And when something pops up that doesn't do what we expect it to do, this Atlas system looks for it because it's actually like it's a threat detection system for Earth. So it's like protecting us at all times. So it saw this thing, I believe in July, and it was like, whoa, what the hell is that? It's not supposed to be there. So it started tracking it. And we discovered that it was basically an object from outside of our solar system. So most comets and asteroids and stuff come from like two places. We have like this Kuiper belt, which is just this like kind of ring around the planets, the outer boundary of the planets, just a bunch of icy things and comets and stuff. Sometimes those things will whip through our like inner part of our solar system as they get kind of pulled into like the gravitational pull of the sun. And then we have this like Oort cloud, which is like this crazy like rocky membrane all the way outside of the heliosphere, outside of our entire solar system. It's like this shell, and that's where other objects come from. But this one didn't come from either one of those places. It more than likely came from the center of our Milky Way, which we believe is a supermassive black hole. So that makes it very strange. And the way it's coming in at like basically all the planets, you know, as they orbit around the sun, are on this thing called an ecliptic. It's like a record, you know, and basically most things besides Pluto, because it's just a weird one, everything's kind of flat, more or less, you know, deviation a few degrees. And this thing is coming in perfectly in line, about a 5 degree incline to our ecliptic, which is pretty precise. Like that's, you know, I forget the odds of that happening, but it's very, very rare. So there's all sorts of like abnormalities about this thing. But the more we look at it, it's following a trajectory which we anticipated. It hasn't deviated from it basically at all, which we can basically rule out that it's any sort of like a spaceship or spacecraft at this point. But then that's where things get weird, because now it's about to, you know, go around the sun, and we're not going to see it for like 2 months or like a month and a half. And we won't get another glimpse of it until probably like early December. And then at the same time, we go through this government shutdown, so they cut all the live feeds on all the freaking stuff. So now we're kind of in the dark. So as this thing gets closer, now that we want to really study it and really be like, okay, where the hell is this thing going, and what's it doing, what's it made of, all these things, all of a sudden all these things start dropping offline. And now NASA's quiet and everyone's quiet. And even like other governments that have their space agencies, they got a lot quieter too. And it's like, hey, y'all ain't shut down. Like, what the hell? So all of a sudden things got weirder. So
well, that's kind of where I'm at on this whole thing, Jordan, is like I err on the side of it being nothing. Not nothing. I mean, it could be a rare, you know, phenomenon like you're talking about, but like nothing that poses a threat to us. And certainly nothing that's going to amount to what all these people are speculating or alluding to. But it does leave me in this position where I'm like, why is everybody saying this? You know, why are they posting in the New York Post ideas of it being hostile? There's all this concern that it doesn't have a tail, and therefore it is not a comet.
Yeah, that's so you're saying that the trajectory that it's on rules out the possibility of it being a biological or some sort of a spacecraft. Is it moving strange? Is that what you mean?
No, it's actually moving exactly how our systems. We have all these like advanced computer systems that they can basically plot out trajectories of celestial things. So things that are in space, we can anticipate their path based on their speed and where they came from, that kind of stuff, and the gravitational pull of the sun. We're pretty good at mapping that stuff out. And it's doing exactly what we expected it to do. Like just the other day, one of the Mars rover guys took a picture of it, and it was exactly where we thought it was going to be. So it doesn't seem to be like moving intelligently or nothing like that.
Well, there's a couple of Mars rover photos, and I didn't believe this one initially until you could actually look it up on the website. But just because the image is showing you something wonky doesn't mean that what you're seeing. So it's kind of right there.
This one here, right?
Yeah, let's see if we can pull that up on screen. Now, this is apparently correct, or this is a real image, but that doesn't mean that what it's looking at is the comet. Some people are speculating that this is actually a reflection of, I guess, maybe the rover itself or something of that nature. But this apparently came from the rover, the Mars rover, and now people are running away with it. There's even these images of this elongated, glowing sort of tic-tac shaped thing with a halo around it, but that's just due to camera exposure, right? It's I don't know exactly how to word it. I'm not a photographer, but when you're photographing something, you know, you have sort of this trail effect, which is what that is. It doesn't actually look like that, is my understanding. This is going to be a single point of light, and because of the way that we're capturing it, it looks elongated. But there's, I mean, let me ask you this. What do you make of it when you see them making these claims? Because that's really what I want to get into. I'm erring on the side of this is just a comet or something natural phenomenon.
Well, honestly, now that he's talking about, I wasn't aware of the other governments, quieting
this
down.
is what we said the other day, where it's like now that there's a government shutdown, people are speculating that this 3i Atlas is the reason for the government shutdown.
And I was willing to look past, like, all right, our government shuts down twice a year. It's a constant thing. There's always gridlock. So I was like, whatever. But if other governments are not looking at this thing anymore, like if Russia's not tracking it and they're staying quiet,
why?
I start to get a little suspicious. And it also reminds me of, I forget the guy's name, but he was tracking the comet that hit somewhere in Africa. As the lockdowns happened. The world was like preparing for something, and then boom, comet hits, and it's like a media-wide blackout. And you only really find out about it until, unless you're in the conspiracy circles, you find out about it a couple of years later.
And here, just to add to the strangeness, and then I want to pass the ball back to you, Jordan. They're claiming, this is, I believe, Avi Loeb and Anna-Paulina Luna are like petitioning, I don't know, NASA or something like that to take this seriously. You read the article from the New York Post, and they're saying, well, this thing is due to pass between us and the sun October 30th, so Halloween Eve, I don't know how to, and then he goes, Avi, whatever his name, goes on to then speculate. It doesn't really seem like he's speculating. He's like, this thing could release drones that would appear to us as UAPs.
It's so much fun.
And the only thing that I can get out of there is, why the hell would you say that?
Yeah, man. Don't get me started on Avi. So
please do.
He's a straight, we did a little research on him. Strange character, shady character.
Yeah. So I won't say anything to get this episode taken down, but let me just stick to, like, okay, so because
Jordan, this is the free speech platform.
Oh yes, yeah, whatever you'd like.
We'll take it down and edit it, and it'll be up later.
Yeah, but this is not staying on YouTube until we edit it. So whatever is on your mind, don't worry about any choice words that are going to get us. Say whatever you want.
Hey, it's the Nephilim. Come on, guys, we can do whatever.
There you go.
Right. So, but like going back to what you were saying a minute ago about those images, yeah, the first one does seem like a reflection. Like this thing's going like, well over 100,000 miles an hour. You're not going to get a crisp image like that. The other one that's this is where it gets weirder. That other one that's like the elongated tic tac thing. That's actually a photo of the Mars moon Phobos, which it's just a long exposure. So when they have to get these images in space, they do a long exposure, and it makes it look elongated like that. And so that's actually the Mars moon Phobos, which, funny thing is, Phobos means fear in Greek. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, right. So they're pumping up the fear of this thing like crazy. And yeah, like I did a whole episode on Conscious Observers about 3i Atlas and the kind of bringing in the apocalypse. And I do believe this, because if you look at, so this is our third interstellar object. The first one, Oumuamua in 2017. Directly after that was the revelation of the New York Times, disclosure, all the UFO stuff, David Fravor and Ryan Graves and all that stuff. And that led to like this whole disclosure movement that happened directly after. The next interstellar object, 2I, was 2I Borisov, which was in 2019. Both these were in December. In December of 2019, directly after that's when it happened. Directly after Borisov came through. So real quickly, I study what's called human design. Human design uses astrology as kind of the basis. And we're taught about the neutrino stream and how, so break it down real fast, but like how everything in our solar system is like a cosmic clock, right? So depending on where the objects are and where everything is, the sun, the earth, moon, all the stars, all the celestial objects, at any given time, you take a stamp, boom, that stamp is a cosmic snapshot. That's the data imprint. And that is decoded. And that's how we can do natal charts. That's how I can tell you all sorts of about yourself just through, your astrology, like where you're born, when you're born, a few other factors, right? And I can give you incredible data, very specific about you. I can also tell things about Earth and events coming and that kind of stuff, depending on where everything is. So if you look at it this way, we live in a closed system. The solar system's pretty closed. And we know exactly how all the things work, right? So I know when Mars is here and when Jupiter's here and Saturn's here and all these kind of things, we know kind of the archetypes and energy and that kind of stuff, what to expect. Well, when something new comes in, right now we have 3i Atlas, that's a new object that came from somewhere else, some other part of the universe, and it carries information. Everything carries information. So as that passes through, as the neutrinos come from the sun. They're our carrier wave. It's kind of like an invisible, it's like the radio wave, right? It's what carries information. And as it goes from the sun to us and it passes through, every second you have 1 trillion neutrinos passing through your body every second and bringing information through. So as they bring information through, that's how like astrology works. Now that we have this new object in our solar system, we don't know how that energy affects things. So we have no idea what this new energy stream, this information stream is going to bring. That's where it gets spicy. So we can look at the last two things. So we had one eye, which was Oumuamua, and that basically led directly to disclosure and all sorts of other things. So that shifted us at like a ontological point of view, like, okay, maybe there are things out there that we can't explain. Maybe we're not alone in the universe. And then we get to 2019, and then that shifts our view about, you know, with, okay, we can't trust government, we can't trust doctors, can't trust the medical establishment, can't trust pharma, like, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like it led to this huge spiritual awakening. And then we go to now, and I did a kind of an astrology reading on 3i Atlas when it's at what's called a perihelion, which is going to be October 29th to the 30th. That's when it's closest to the sun. I put that as its birth date. And it's a strong Scorpio, which means in the tropical system, which means basically unveiling of like dropping of the veil, revealing of deception, lies, unmasking, that kind of stuff. Very, very tumultuous, very chaotic, you know. And then if you look at the sidereal system, then it's Libra, which is the balancing. And when you put those two things together, you have an exposing of lies, deception, that kind of stuff. And apocalypse literally means dropping of the veil. It basically means like when you've been, you know, deceived and lied to for a long time, and then the truth comes out. That's what apocalypse means. Apocalypse doesn't mean end of the world. It means end of an era, end of deceit. And what, if you run the astrology report on 3i Atlas, it suggests that it's going to bring awareness to lies, deception, dropping of the mask and the veil, and then followed by balance and justice in Libra. And so anyways, just by looking at the history of our interstellar objects and looking at this one and the time period we're in, it's not coming anywhere near Earth. We don't have to worry about it hitting us. Avi was saying back in 2017 with Oumuamua that it was a freaking spaceship and it was gonna, you know, invade Earth, and obviously none of that happened. He loves the limelight with this, and but he's been wrong pretty consistently. And he's a theoretical astrophysicist, so he always says, "Hey, just theories." But he says he's
they went on to speculate that Oumuamua, I'm sure I butchered that, is like a scout.
He's been saying all the words that you say, but he's saying them better. He said tumultuous.
He said tumultuous. Yeah, but he said it the right way.
He said it the right way.
I just kind of make up words. Yeah.
I got
go for it though.
It is interesting.
no.
It's interesting that he's like roped Anna Paulina Luna into this, and she just kind of exploded into, I don't know what you would call it, like the conspiracy zeitgeist, right? She's on Joe Rogan. She's talking about the Book of Enoch and fallen angels and all these different things. And I find it fascinating that she's also tied up in this. And I
find it fascinating that she's tied up in everything, and that she's chosen the last name Luna. She's tied up in the JFK files. She's tied up in disclosure. She's tied up in 3i Atlas. And now she apparently she's talking to Laura Loomer about China being behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, just like tied up in a lot of misinformation. Yeah.
Well, who are we to say it's misinformation? Might be accurate information.
It could be. I just don't take my information from a stripper. Personally.
Yeah. Also, and if you have the last name,
people don't forget.
I don't know about that one. But it's weird because so when you talk about unveiling, right? Apocalypse meaning sort of the dropping of the veil, or even revelation meaning like revealing, right? There are a lot of things on the horizon that could be monumental. Obviously, the alien disclosure, or sort of the light alien disclosure that happened with the first interstellar object, really big deal, really big step in that direction of humanity's awareness of these sorts of things. You know, the lockdowns, you don't even have to, everybody knows, wow, the entire world. I mean, that's a huge event. If it was going to be on that level, my mind is going to what they've been dangling in front of us for so long, which is these Epstein files. You know, as far as concepts like justice and things like that, and this big reveal. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just, that's where my head's going, because I still think that is a playing piece that they would very much like to use. I know a lot of people go back and forth on the Epstein thing and they go, they're never going to do it. It's just this red herring. They're putting it in front of us. They take it away. They put it in front. And they do this back and forth. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like they're saving it for when the board is set the right way. Then they're going to play this card and they're going to put that out there. And, you know, I'm not claiming to know what they're going to do with it, but I don't think it goes away. So that's where my mind is when I go, well, what would be a big reveal to us? You know what I mean? And then what ends in some sort of justice, right? Well, maybe that sort of thing. I know that's unpopular to say because so many people are on the side of we're never going to get them. You know, it's a fool's errand to try to pursue the truth regarding the Epstein files. But I just think that they're waiting to play that one.
Yeah, man. It's such a weird situation because, like, you know, I don't know if Trump is implicated in it, you know what I mean? And he would be the one kind of playing, unless there's like a deep state factor and they're the ones that hold that final card of who and when they're going to play it. You know, with the whole, I mean, there's so much stuff happening right now. I mean, put National Guard all around the country. You know, the government's in a shutdown. We don't even know when or if they're going to reopen. I mean, they seem to be getting further and further away every day. And, you know, whenever Trump came into office, I was very vocal about, you know, I look at all this stuff way differently. And I thought he was going to bring in, and I'm not a religious person, but I thought he was going to bring in the apocalypse. And I said that at the beginning. I think that's why he didn't die in the first pew pew.
He does play these elements of like adhering to an antichrist narrative. Like he's playing this character and I'm left, you know, kind of going, is this genuine prophecy or is this someone trying to manufacture prophecy? But I'm of a very similar school of thought with his role in regards to that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't even know if he's consciously doing any of the things he's doing. It's more of like a wrecking ball. It's like I don't look at him as any sort of a savior or anything like that. You know, he's pretty douchey. Like I like him. You know, he's funny as shit and like like you know all that. But I'm not like a big Trumper or anything like that. I see it as a wrecking ball. Like there's a lot of data that suggests that in the next 15 years we're going to go through a radical transformation in America. You know, there was a project called Project 2050 that had 6,000 remote viewers. And basically, one of the common threads is they saw the federal government no longer existing. They saw, no longer states. It was like these little mini countries drawn across like political lines, essentially. And there's all this data, and there's so many other prophecies, so many other things that kind of line up with that, where I was like, okay, before he even got elected, I was like, if he gets elected, I think he's the wrecking ball that brings down the kind of organization of the federal government. And whether he does it consciously or subconsciously, I don't know. But he's a wrecking ball. You know, he's like someone just tossed a hand grenade in there and was like, good luck. And so I see that. And now, like at the beginning, I was like, I don't know. He's kind of almost playing like Mr. Politician Man. And now here we are, freaking National Guard and military talking about insurrection.
Right.
Now we have like, NASA just went dark and we have this thing coming. All these things are happening. And now I'm like, okay. Now we're revving up. Like now it's getting to the spicy part.
Well, Jordan, for people that I'm sorry to interrupt, but for people that don't look at the Trump thing skeptically and think that it's much more than just a politician or much more than just an outsider becoming the president, I think aren't looking at it critically enough. Just there are elements alone, and we don't have to get into them here. We've beat him to death in the show. But ideas like the Ingersoll Lockwood books, ideas like his uncle, being at MIT and then being hired by the FBI to recover and report on Nikola Tesla's lab and all of his inventions after he passes away. There's so many movies, Back to the Future seems to hint constantly at a coming Donald Trump presidency for the longest time. You have Cliff High's algorithm that predicts the Joe Rogan thing. There's so much there.
Do you follow Cliff High? Is that seems like something? Okay,
like
that might be.
There's just a lot of strangeness is what I'm trying to highlight. Is he's not just this average character. I mean, one of my favorite ones is that 1951 show Trackdown, and it has an episode called End of the World. It's like a Western, a black and white film or a show. And in this episode, End of the World, a con man comes to town, convinces everybody that the end is coming, but he can save them by building a wall around the town. His name is Trump. There is so many like strange, you don't even know really where to place them. So there are plenty of reasons. I just want to say that for anybody that hears that and goes like, why would you suspect that? Like, dude, I have in my notebook, the green one at home, I have 3 pages worth of notes on all the strange crap with Donald Trump that doesn't make any sense, and it's very hard to place it. And one of the places you could place those facts is this guy some sort of a prophetic figure? Not saying it's good or bad, but he is seemingly more than just a political outsider who became the president.
Yeah. Yeah, my last episode I just did on my podcast was about the Hopi prophecy, and there's a segment of the Hopi prophecy, the man in the red hat, and
Yes.
And it's freaking wild because like I dove deep into the Hopi prophecy and got as much information as I could from like actual Hopi, people and text and talks and stuff, like none of the New Age stuff, and they specifically say that around this point, and they call it age of purification, but they list these like 9 things that are going to happen. And we're at like number 9. And right at that moment, they say that we're going to have this part of the world is going to be run by the man in the red hat. They say man in a red hat or red scarf or red cloak. They say it very specifically. And here we are. I mean, like presidents don't wear freaking hats. They just don't wear hats. And they don't wear.
Can you talk about that a little bit, Jordan? We wanted to talk about the Hopi prophecies. We never got around to it. What are these 9 things? Do you remember those?
Yeah. So depending, it's an oral tradition that's been passed down for thousands of years. They believe that they came from. So they say that there was a land that we would call Lemuria in the Pacific Ocean that at the last like pole flip went underwater. They survived to America. Were helped by the ant people, which when they describe the ant people and draw them, they look like freaking gray aliens. That they were underground, and then the Hopi people came out from underground at a certain point when it was safe, and now they're the Hopi people. And they have this like prophecy. They've passed it down from generation to generation. So some people say it's 5 things, some say 9, so that doesn't really matter. But basically they lay out, this was hundreds of years ago, that first of all, their symbol is a plus sign like this. And they say that was where they were guided to come to this new land, and that's the sacred land. Well, right now they live in northern Arizona at the Four Corners region. So before the states were drawn up, at that point in America, it's like, like Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, right? And it makes the Four Corners. And that's their symbol. That was their symbol for their sacred land before we even drew up those 4 states. So like that's weird. But
that's fascinating.
Yeah, right. So it gets even weirder because they said, we'll know when we're in the age of purification, when we have, they said one of the first things is we're going to have spinning wheels with voices that are going to be crisscrossing the land. So then later they're like, okay, that was probably carriages. And then they said we would have steel snakes that were slithering all over the land, right? So like trains. Then they said we would have like highway or roads in the sky or something like that. They didn't say roads, but whatever they use for trails in the sky.
Chemtrails.
Then they said that we'd be covered in spider webs, that there would be webs everywhere. Then you have like, telephone lines, electrical lines, your World Wide Web, that kind of stuff. Then they even got more specific. They said there was going to be a house in space, a house in the sky that was going to fall, right? So then when I did my video, I was like, well, there's the ISS, right? The International Space Station. I was like, well, what if that falls? Because it's going to be decommissioned one day. And somebody reminded me, they're like, dude, we had something called Skylab back in the like early 80s, I believe, which was like a space station type thing that actually crashed and fell from the sky. Wow. And so the prophecy said there was going to be a house in the sky that's going to crash. So all these things. And well,
not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt. the house in the sky stuff calls back to like ancient Vimanas. It calls back to different kind of Greek writings where they're talking about their demigods or gods that are living in these castles in the sky. So we see this kind of thing over and over again, and also the idea of New Jerusalem, which is, for lack of better words, an entire city in the sky. And then you see that reflected in the Avengers movie where there's like
they drop
drop the whole city on the sky. So it's like this theme
over and over again
left humanity, and it just continues to refine itself until.
And I gotta say too, I find it really, really fascinating, this idea of like the ant people. I remember watching a video where they showed like a native, I guess one of the Hopi members or Hopi tribe, this picture of an alien gray. And they're like, yeah, we never heard of that. That's an ant person. They're subterranean. And then you get into the whole Phil Schneider thing, and it's like, it seems to be, that everybody's looking out there for the UFOs, for the grays, but there's a huge part of the UAP or UFO community that's determined that these things are subterranean. They're submersible. They're coming from the oceans. and over again, you get these ideas of like reptilians, tall grays, etc., being underground. And I think the Phil Schneider situation is a really good example of that, because what he describes as gutting him with a sort of energy blast is
very jarring.
Let me finish this point just for the audience, and then we're gonna what he describes as gutting him with an energy blast is a tall gray, effectively. But guys, that sound,
she just gave us the hook. She gave them the hook. I'm so sorry.
Nancy is tired of entertaining these pores. And unfortunately, if you want to prove it to us that you're not poor, patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Otherwise, give it about a week or so and you'll see this episode. But
get that laser money. See ya.
We out of here. All right, man. That was jarring. So I all of this to say, the Hopi prophecies, the Hopi predictions. I saw somebody in the chat saying we don't like prophecy, we like predictions, whatever you want to call it. Very fascinating information, and it's easy to draw the correlation. Metal snakes, right? Trains.
I love the way like older cultures describe
because they
current
don't have
phenomenon.
the words for it, but
it's
they were
like snakes, dog, on the earth, and it's like exactly like that.
Snakes. I'll give you that one. So very interesting.
Also
Jordan.
makes you think, how were they seeing this? Like the person who was receiving this vision, they're seeing it from above. If they look like snakes, you're looking directly down at the New York City transit system, right? So
reminds
it's
me of like a Enoch situation where like the angels are carrying him around and he's like, "What was that, dog?" And they're like, "Don't worry about that."
Yeah, that's exactly what that's like.
That is interesting.
Well, it's funny, like, Home Dude in the chat was like, we don't like prophecy, and it's like, hey, I'm skeptical about all this, but you got to look at it this way: if the ant people are gray aliens, and the grays have been seen in these flying saucers and different kinds of craft. Well, when you manipulate gravity, you manipulate time, right? Because space-time is a continuum.
Yes,
they're intrinsically linked. So if you have these anti-gravity or however they're manipulating gravity to move the way that they move with no propulsion, if they can do that, then they're also manipulating time. And there's a lot of people that know what the hell they're talking about, that think that these grays and the Nordics and a lot of these different what we call extraterrestrials are actually terrestrial beings from and living on Earth, but they manipulate timelines. They can travel through time. So if the Hopi people are guided by the ant people, which they say that they are, they're protected and guided by them, then maybe the information they're given isn't prophecy. Maybe it's information relayed to them by people who have been to the future. You know what I'm saying? And then in that case, it's not them having this prophetic vision and we're just trusting some Hopi elder and his shamanic vision. It's actually like information given from,
it's kind of firsthand information. Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, we watched on this show, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. There's a woman, I forget what her name is, but she claims to be a lifelong abductee victim. She doesn't see it as a victim, although I really struggle with that, because anything that paralyzes you, takes you from your home against your will, puts what would you call it, implants in you and things like that. So she says when she was younger, she had an implant put in her, and she was dealing with the tall Nords, right? The blonde, white Nords, and this thing that was put in her allows her to communicate telepathically and also share her own, visuals with this entity, this Nordic entity. He can do the same thing with her, which we do a lot of research, especially on things like the telepathy tape or nonverbal autism and things like that. And there is a correlation between however you get the metals in your system, whether it's an abductee situation where they implant a frequency conducting technology within you, or maybe you are inundated by heavy metals via some sort of, medical intervention. And once that those particles cross the blood-brain barrier, you now have the ability to channel or what would you call it? Conduct these frequencies that they communicate with you. So anyway, she's having these interactions with these tall Nords. They're kind of lifelong homies. And recently he hits her up and he goes, "Yo, check this out." And that's literally like kind of the way that she describes it. He's like, just telepathically, "What's up, dude? What are you doing? Let me show you something." And according to her, shows her 3-eye atlas, to which she is then, I guess they describe it to her, or it's her own conclusion based off of looking at the thing or sharing information. It is a biological craft. So that's an interesting thing, because it's two things there, right? Like not just a craft you think of metal and you know, bolts, rivets, or whatever, even though a lot of the times these situations don't seem to really be like that. She's saying a biological craft. So I just find that fascinating, because she then goes on to use language like Galactic Federation, things of that nature, which are all very familiar when it comes to this exploration of the UAP phenomenon. But you know, there it is. It's these tall Nords, these you know, ant people, all these different creatures or species been here for a long time and have been kind of communicating with people the same way for quite some time, which seems to be frequency based conductive technology, whether it's an implant or otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, man. I've done a few deep dives on the Nordics and the Greys and their connection and all that kind of stuff, and it's super fascinating. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, they're, you know, if you look at MUFON data, MUFON who you know, tracks like encounters and abductions, that kind of stuff. By far, the two most reported what we call aliens are Nordics and Greys, right? By far. And it's like 80% of all encounters are split between Nordics and Greys. And the more that they track these things, the more they observe them, they don't seem to ever be coming from up. They always seem to come from below. They seem to live either in our oceans or inside like mountains, volcanoes, caves, that kind of stuff, but inside the earth. And it's really fascinating. And, you know, I have my theories on what it all is. But the one thing that's consistent is these things seem to be real. They seem to exist. They seem to be coming from Earth, right? And they seem to have been here for a long time. You know, they're not new. So yeah, I'm sure they have information. I'm sure they have humans that they kind of communicate with and give heads up to and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's super fascinating. But as far as like the biological craft thing, you know, I dove into that in one of my videos that like I see it, like I described earlier, like it's bringing information to us, right? Well, I see the universe. I call it the larger living system. This universe we live in is alive. It's essentially like a body, and not like a body with like arms and legs, but it's like an organism, right? It's made of information and it's alive. It's a living thing. And it seems like when these interstellar comets come through, they deliver almost like you're taking a pill. It's almost like a nutrient, you know, delivery system, right? But it's delivering like information. But it doesn't just deliver information, it delivers information and organics. Like if you think about it, like right now it's shedding, like space is cold, right? So everything's frozen. They call these things dirty snowballs. It's like a dirty snowball flying through the universe. But as it gets closer to the sun, the radiation from the sun causes it to melt. It does this thing called sublimation, where it basically goes from solid to gas, like immediately. And when it does that, it ionizes and it turns into this like ionized plasma. And plasma is information. Plasma is like the structure for consciousness. And so to say this thing is a living craft, I mean, it could be like this could be how the universe does things like this. It could be like a smart pill kind of a thing. It hasn't never changed course, so it doesn't seem like it's you know, being steered or anything, but it almost seems like it's like a pill that, you know, is delivering organics and information to us.
So do you think that as it approaches the sun, the closer it gets to the sun, it's going to be like deteriorating, getting smaller, melting, and then letting out whatever? That's a very interesting theory, because it's not something that I really ever consider, like something outside of our enclosed system.
Yeah.
Contaminating, I guess is a word you can say,
Not even
right?
a theory. It's actually pure science. Like it is happening right now. That's what the colors. That's what they call it the coma. The coma is it's outgassing. So you got to look at the comet is like
Oh,
a
is that what that is? That like because I looked at it and I was like, when they're saying that it's angry, all I'm seeing is like the gay flag behind it. I'm like, what's
Oh
that mean?
yeah, but that was prolonged exposure too, so it's just like it kind of changing colors as it moves along.
But he's saying that those are gases being let off by this thing.
That makes sense.
the
Oh,
tail. So a comet's tail, what that is it's the organic matter, the cyanide, the hydrogen, all the things that. So basically, like this thing is a humongous ice cube. It's a dirty snowball flying through space, and inside of it, it has organics. It has chemicals. It has. So we've even found fungus on these things. We found there's things called prebiotics. Prebiotics is like cyanide. So these cyanide compounds, which we know it has cyanide because it was blue for a moment. We can tell they have these spectrometers and they can take pictures of it and they can break it up into like a spectrum and they can figure out what elements are in it. So we know it has cyanide, and they know that cyanide, they think, astrophysicists think that cyanide is what delivered the prebiotics to Earth and to planets, and that's where life actually comes from. So you have to have these prebiotics that start life, that go from like inorganic matter to like complex organic matter, and the cyanide is the prebiotics that does that. And so we think of cyanide as bad, but cyanide is actually very good. It's bad for us because it strips our oxygen away, but in early formation of planets don't have oxygen anyways, so it's perfect. So as these comets hit planets, they deliver the ingredients for life. So this thing right now is cruising through our solar system, and as it gets closer to the sun, it starts to melt. And as it melts, it doesn't just melt, but the sun actually puts out what's called solar wind, which is this strong, like charged wind, right? And it's going towards the sun. And so the charged wind is like stripping the electrons from these particles, which creates plasma. It creates ionization. So it's going to have this, it already does. It has this ionized like field, like a force field around it, of like the ionized plasma. And plasma is intelligent, it's sentient. We believe it's conscious. I believe it's the like kind of structure of the framework, like the scaffolding for consciousness. And it transmits information, it stores and transmits information. So this thing is coming through, and it's almost like it gets activated. It's like it's dormant when it's traveling through the universe because it's cold and there's nothing happening. And when it gets close to a sun or a star, it's pulled to the star because it's in this like gravitational well. It's like something going around drain, you know? So it gets pulled to it. And when it does, it heats up, it ionizes, and it releases organic matter. It releases cyanide. It releases all the chemical elements. This thing comes from a different part of the universe. So we don't even know what it's got in it. We don't know what it could have, like alien elements. It could have different chemicals. It could have, you know, crystals and stuff that we don't even have here. It could have all sorts of shit. And that stuff's gets left behind because this thing's hauling out, and it's just going to zip on through here, but it's going to leave this tail of stuff behind it. And that stuff is stuff that we've probably never had in the solar system, at least not in like millions of years.
So are these people, I'm sorry, but are these people incorrect when they're saying that it has no, because that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing conflicting reports now. People are like, it has no tail. And that's what makes it strange. And in fact, it's emitting a haze in front of it, which is, and I'm like, I don't know anything. And I think that's probably a good place to stop that sentence. So I don't like, I'm not sure what to make of it. You know what I mean? Does it have a tail? Is it really emitting a strange glow ahead of it? What's the deal?
It does have a tail, and it was emitting a glow ahead of it. So like it does a sublimation thing. So like as soon as it gets closer to the sun, it starts heating up, and the radiation starts to make the ice go from, it's called sublimation, but it goes from basically frozen ice to immediately gas. And that process creates a tail. It creates the coma. It also creates this like sun-facing tail, which seems weird. Like we would think, okay, if it's going straight, like everything should be going behind it. But it creates this like sun-facing tail in a way. It's just basically like a bubble in front of it as all this stuff is ionizing. And that only happens at the beginning. That's not apparent anymore. So it did that when it should have done it. But some people were like, oh, it shouldn't be doing that right now, and it's, you know, it's too far away and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, y'all are basing this on like how we look at normal comets. Like this isn't a normal comet. You know what I mean? It's an alien comet. We don't know what's in it. We don't know what it's made of. We don't know how old it is. We don't know where it came from. So we can't really like judge it and say, oh, it's acting strange, so it must be a spaceship or something. It's like it's acting strange because it's a weird alien comet from the middle of our, you know, Milky Way. But no, it does have a tail now, and it did a weird little front-facing tail for a little bit, which is normal. And also our images of it have sucked. Like we got one good Hubble image at the very beginning, and considering we have satellites everywhere, and we give NASA $25 billion a year and all this, it's like, dude, like what are y'all out there with flip phones? Like why does everything suck? Like we should be able to get better images of this.
Yeah, I see a lot of these images coming out. Today, you know, the internet was inundated by them, and it's like, you know, here it is, this, and I'm like, that's a white speck. I can't, there's like no detail to that. You could be showing me anything, and I wouldn't be able to discern whether or not
it's almost
it was
like whenever somebody sees a cryptid, it's always like,
yeah, it's like it's always blurry.
It's like a blurry thing. Yeah.
Do you think that it's maybe unjustified, the amount of, I mean, I wasn't paying attention that much, certainly not to Twitter, let's say, in particular for Umau, the other one. And I wasn't paying attention at all for the first one, certainly not on Twitter. I'm looking at this one, and there's like a fever around it.
Well, before you answer if it's justified to have this much fever, those
a lot of fever,
baby. Those first two, were they also did the same phenomenon happen with them where they are emitting particles, and they both came from out of our general closed area, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so Oumuamua, I believe it's actually pronounced Oumuamua. It was very weird, and that's where so Avi Loeb was pumping that one up like crazy. I mean, he had
Yeah.
everyone convinced that this thing was a spaceship and all this kind of stuff. It was technically the first interstellar object, and people say, okay, like this is only the third interstellar object, and like Avi at that time was like, this is the first interstellar object ever. I'm like, no, dude, we just got the satellites that were capable of even tracking these freaking things. These things
Yeah.
probably buzz through all the time. They're small, they were really fast, and we haven't had like this kind of equipment for very long. So to say it's like the third one ever, you know, it's not. It's like when people say it's the hottest summer ever. It's like, no, it's the hottest summer since like the 70s when we started tracking this. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, so but he was pumping it up big time back then, and he got real famous for it and wrote a book and all that stuff, and it was completely wrong. Like he was saying, he was like, okay, it changed trajectory just a tiny bit, like half a degree. So obviously it's got propulsion and it's intelligently guided. But then like actual smart people came in and were like, no, like it's called outgassing. Like as it gets closer to the sun, like the stuff underneath the icy shell like melts and it puts off like an energy, and it can push it. It can kind of deviate its course just a little bit, you know, from the outgassing, and that's what we expect to see, and that's what happened. So Oumuamua was weird because it was really long and it was like tumbling, so it wasn't like round like an egg like most planets are. So it was a weird shape. It was interstellar, which is already weird, and it was the first time we'd ever tracked one of these, so we really didn't know what we were looking at. We had nothing to compare it to.
Wait,
But yeah,
Jordan, is this thing egg shaped? Is 3i Atlas egg
No,
shaped?
this is elongated too, right? This is like a sort of I mean, the way they're describing is it's like it's 7 miles
Let
long.
him explain it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Please, Avi. Somebody who knows what they're Avi. I'm sorry, Jordan.
How dare you?
Somebody that knows what they're talking about.
It's hard to tell. So it has something called like a nucleus, and the nucleus is going to be like it, right? Like that's actually what this thing is. But then around it, it has like this glow because it's emitting light because like, well, it's icy, so it's reflecting the sunlight. But also as it like ionizes, it puts out like a plasma, and it has this like kind of plasma sheath around it. So it's really hard to tell exactly how big it is. I mean, some of the estimates go from like, I don't know, a football field to like 5 miles. Like, you know what I mean? Like they really have no idea how big it is because we don't know what's the actual nucleus, like what's actual like solid matter and what's like the gas, the glow. So it's hard to tell exactly how big it is. It's hard to tell, you know, the shape of it because we can't really see it. And that's the really frustrating thing is like, you know, they put up like James Webb, and James Webb telescope is freaking phenomenal, and it can see like a cat's asshole in like the other part of the universe, you know. But then like this thing where we know exactly where it is, and we're like, dude, go get a picture of it, and it's like, oh, I'm busy. So it's like there's this weird.
What do you think that is? I mean, you combine that with the idea that there's like a government shutdown, and these other governments that aren't shut down aren't really reporting on it either. I mean, what do you think is? It's weird. I that's what is. It's
well,
so
like,
strange to me.
Geeking out because this is like a not really once in a lifetime, but this is a strange object that's kind of behaving strangely, and we have all sorts of resources up in space. So I would think these people would be like freaking out, like kid in a candy shop, like, you know, hey, like they had to like convince them. Like we have these things going around Mars that just keep taking the same pictures of Mars. Like Mars isn't doing anything; it's just there. It's the same that it's always been. And they're like telling them, they're like, hey, why don't we like make those orbiters like take pictures of this? And they're like, but they're busy taking pictures of Mars. And it's like they had to like twist their arm and convince them. It's like, dude, like, come on, man.
Well, that's what it's strange. Like the New York Post.
Well, that just sounds like autism.
Yeah. Well, they just released an article, the New York Post, and they're like, scientists have found alien DNA in the human genome or whatever. And I'm just looking at like what they've been doing lately. And I'm like, the New York Post is doing nothing to sort of calm this situation down. It's like they're the wild speculation machine. I mean, they're the ones that are putting out the articles that are saying it's hostile, that are saying it's going to release drones. Now they're like, as we wait for this alien ship to arrive and laser us into dust, maybe an interesting fact is we have alien, you know, DNA in our genome. So I'm like, what? It almost feels like they don't know what this thing's going to do. And maybe it's not going to do anything, but they want to convince us that something is coming. And that makes me feel like they're going to do something.
Jordan, you've convinced me that the last two that have passed us have had some sort of shed.
Right.
And as that sheds, we get these breakthrough moments. So whatever it's shedding on us, if it's plasma, I mean, that goes to the work of Andrija Puharish, where he talks about plasma, like psychic plasma in the air, where somebody can have an idea and then across the world, someone will have the same idea. And you guys are working in tandem at this thing because like we're sort of telepathic in nature, although I think we're not supposed to use it as much as it, but this idea of plasma, the traveling of information, making that the ether that we're in right now more readily accessible. If every time one of these things passes and it lets off a little bit more whatever plasma and other things, just blap in humanity, the increase in consciousness, whatever that may be, too, like whatever people are waking up to.
Well, that's interesting, right? Yeah, because if we're talking about ideas are alive, and then we're gonna have these breakthroughs in ideas, and this thing is somehow shedding. Is it just bukkakeing us with ideas?
Shedding
as it comes
ideas. Like, what about that? What do you think about this idea? But
he's like, I've never heard anything so retarded.
Comets are also, I mean, throughout history, though, people have marked the passing of comets as significant events.
Sure.
When they see this happen, there's usually a turning. There's something that happens after. So every time one of these things passes, you're saying that it's shedding.
Well, absolutely, especially if they get close to the sun, which this one is getting relatively close to the sun. You know, they all pass in different places and everything, but this one's going pretty damn close to the sun. So close where some people are actually concerned that it could, like chunks of it could kind of fall off. Like right now, we know it's going in a pretty straight line. It's going to bend a little bit as it kind of comes, you know, around the sun. But like, suppose a big chunk of it came off. Well, all of a sudden that changes its composure, it changes its weight distribution and everything, and then it could change course. So, but it's going close enough to the sun to where it's definitely going to be. It already is. It's already outgassing. It's already creating the coma. It's already shedding its. We know it has cyanide. We know cyanide has like prebiotics, which is like organic material that is like the basis for like RNA and DNA. It's where life comes from. And
I saw something that they can tell it's got like nickel in it. Is that true?
Yeah, a lot of nickel. Yeah, and it has, you know, it's definitely not what they expected, but it's because it's an alien comet, right? So it has different amounts of things that we're not used to seeing. So a lot of nickel, and then a decent amount of cyanide. And so it's introducing these things into our system, but it's also introducing other information that we don't see. You know, it's just its presence alone is introducing like a variable into the system. From like an astrological point of view, like that changes everything. Just it being here changes everything. And the fact it's making its perihelion on October 30th is when we start the kind of the Dia de los Muertos, like that kind of thinning of the veil, like that period there.
Yeah, dude.
Like, yeah. So that's the whole reason Halloween is when it is and all that stuff. And the whole reason they do the Dia de los Muertos is because that's when they say the veil is the thinnest. So you have the veil between our world and the unseen world being the thinnest at any point during the year. At the same time, this sucker is going to be the closest to the sun, which means it's going to be emitting the most information and material at the same time. And then you have government shutdown. You have everyone talking about freaking aliens and drones and all stuff. And while it's doing that, it's going to be behind the sun, so we can't see it. And so it's doing all this in like hidden. We won't be able to see it. No one will be able to observe it or see it at all. And then it's going to reemerge from outside the other side of the sun. We'll be able to see it. And we don't know, like, what you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. The last two objects, it was about 3 or 4 weeks after their perihelion when things got weird. So that would put us around December-ish. And if you think about it, like last December was weird as hell. It's when we had all the drones and all that weird stuff going on.
Yeah,
and it's shaping up this December to be equally as weird. So it doesn't seem like
the drone phenomenon. The drone phenomenon is picked up again. By the way, it's just happening in Europe.
Can I just say this episode is a banger? Just banger.
So you were so tired of
it's premature thing. It's a bit, yeah, because you're telling me all aliens.
Well, it's not whatever. That I believe these things. I keep looking at it like, why are they saying the craziest crap?
See, when they said eclipse the sun, I assumed it would go in front of the sun.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's going behind the sun, which is more nefarious.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't like that at all.
So that we're going, because so it's the craziest thing is, so when I ran the astrology report on it, so it's doing what's called retrograde, which means like everything goes around the sun basically in the same direction, and this thing is going directly into our ecliptic, so right in line with all the planets, and it's going to buzz 2 of them, but it's going against the grain, against the flow, which in astrology, when something goes against the flow like that, it basically means that it's like, I don't know, an outsider that's course correcting like a pattern or something. It's causing a disruption, right? That's why when things go in retrograde, it like fucks up like technology and people, it fucks up everything because it's going against the flow. So this thing is coming in against the flow, and it's coming in hot, and so it's going to mess up the flow. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it's going to do. So I don't know how things are going to shake out, but if I had to guess, the beginning part of November all the way until probably the beginning part of January, that period there, that 2-month stretch, I think it's gonna be weird as hell. You have all these people, like you were saying, already saying, oh, okay, it's an alien ship, a mothership, and drones and all that stuff with no information. Like Avi will just float those things out there, and he'll be like, oh, I'm just theorizing. And it's like, dude, you're a Harvard astrophysicist. When you say something like that on like News Nation, people are gonna run with it.
But that's true, right, Jordan? Like, he doesn't have a basis for this. He's just saying release drones, right?
It's fun.
I'm reading it and I'm like, what information are you drawing on? Where you're like, this thing's gonna release drones? Like,
as a guy that just says,
yeah,
big fan.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of the way he just said. Like, that's a lot of fun. But I want to go like, hey, wait a second. You seem to be some sort of a respectable character in the community,
But not us.
Where are you? Yeah, we can say whatever we want, and that's fine. Nobody takes it seriously. What are you talking about? Where are you getting at? It's from nowhere, right? That's where he's getting it.
But exactly, and that's the weird thing is like, hey, I'm the last one that's gonna like grill somebody for saying some weird shit, right? Like, more hats off to him, but he'll go on like these like professional shows and podcasts and stuff like that, and he'll say these things with zero proof, evidence, no real data to back it up or anything. He'll just say it, he'll float it out there in this like casual way, and then when people run with it, he'll be like, oh, that's not what I meant. Afterwards, I said this is just a theory. And it's like, yeah, dude, but have you ever heard of a soundbite? Like, all they're gonna do is take that thing, Harvard professor says this is an alien ship. Like, they're gonna take that and run with it, and then it creates this hysteria. And then people like Anna Paulina Luna, like, they run with it and everyone runs with it. And I'm like, dude, you're setting the foundation for this. Like,
see, it was more than that though, Jordan, because it was like, I read the New York Post article and it was something to the extent of, Congress needs to take this seriously was the thing. And it was him and Anna Paulina Luna. That's more than a theory. That's like, if you want to just speculate on a show or, whatever, and kind of say, well, maybe this or maybe that, or imagine even this scenario, that's one thing. But to then go and have the New York Post write this and go, Congress needs to pay attention to this. This is something that we should consider. And that was particularly in reference to the drones.
Well, here's the thing. These guys are they're such clowns. Like I'm about to write them off in general.
I just think we need to say more stuff that's not true.
I want to ask you this though, Jordan. Well, yes, that's what I have been doing.
Apparently that's how you get on the prime time.
It's fun. It's called having fun.
It's
Jordan.
called lying. No, but do you like, so all right, this thing is going to pass the sun or the sun will eclipse it on Dia de los Muertos, the day that the veil is the thinnest on the earth. You like that, right?
That was nice.
That was better than mine. Yeah.
That was very
Hispanic. And this thing has been traveling for I don't know, 4 months, that at least that we've been able to see it. So it's been traveling for however long. Do you think it's a little suspicious?
Right,
say.
yeah, just forever.
It's supposed to be here. It's going to pass at this specific time.
That's very suspicious.
Almost as if it's like supposed to. It knows.
It's like, I got a date to keep.
I got a date in 7 million years.
Yeah,
better go
on Halloween Eve.
Yeah, and boom, it's passing at this juncture in time where our thinny is the thinniest.
It's so thin, dude.
Does that speak to some sort of intelligent design to this thing?
So it came by Mars. It went ridiculously close to Mars for a comet. It went so, because you got to think space is so spread out, dude. It's crazy. It's like things are so far.
It's not affected by Mars's gravitational pull either. Like if it's very close, no,
it's going too fast. Yeah, it's hauling. It's barely affected by the sun, but so it goes right by Mars. Mars is like known as the archetype of like war and conflict, right? Right when it goes by Mars, shit's already boiling over right now. Like there's so many little hot spots and things, popping off on Earth. And then it goes by Phobos, the moon. They take a picture of Phobos. They mistakenly put it out there people think it's 3-eye atlas. They say it's a spaceship when in fact it's Phobos, but Phobos actually means fear, right? That's what
so
Phobos means. So Mars is the god of conflict and war, the archetype of war, and then Phobos means fear. So you have those two things, and now it's going to hide from us, right? And it's going to go kind of hide behind the sun and have its perihelion right whenever the veil thins. So, I mean, if I was making a horror movie, these were the things that I would put into it.
Yes, dude.
So to your point, is it programmed or timed that way? Dude, there's so many weird kind of synchronicities and stuff. What I hope for is that, like I said, that if this is dropping the veil and the deception and is bringing the balance and the scales of justice, which is what the astrology report says, that hopefully it's coming at a precise time to counterbalance some of this weird that's going on, some of this dark stuff. And maybe it's kind of like the light to the dark kind of a thing. I hope it's not like fuel on the fire, but we'll just have to wait and see.
You know, before, because I have no way of verifying this, I don't even own like just a small telescope, but I'm seeing these.
I do.
Things.
I haven't put it together.
Why would we should be looking at this thing? I don't know if we can see it.
Yeah.
But since I have no way of verifying, and I'm quite comfortable with the idea that like NASA has historically lied to us, and then you look at the creation of NASA, Werner von Braun, Operation Paperclip, all the shadiness that's associated with NASA. I go, you know, when the stories first starts breaking, I go, I'm very comfortable with this being entirely a lie. But to now know that there is like a trackable celestial body, this little dude cruising out in space, and that like, sure, maybe Avi is out of his mind, and maybe he's given some juice to Anna Paulina Luna, and she's, you know, influenced one way. Maybe she doesn't know that. Maybe she's trying to be like, oh, this guy, Harvard scientist, says this. We got to make a big deal out of this. Maybe that stuff's not true. But what is true is, yeah, passed by Mars associated with war. They took pictures of Phobos, which means fear. It's going to hide from us on Halloween Eve.
Is it going to be visible to the human eye as it passes behind the sun?
At any point, or even in the future as it gets closer? Is it ever going to be perceivable by the naked eye?
No, it's too far and too fast. But the other weird thing is like, so there's this glare. Obviously, the sun's really bright. So even when it's not directly behind the sun, like I believe even now we're not going to be able to see it from ground-based telescopes, because as it gets closer to the sun, the glare from the sun, because it's just a speck, you know, it's this tiny speck.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see it for like a week before it goes behind the sun. We're not going to see it the whole time it's behind the sun. Then we're not going to see it for like another week or so after it even comes out, just because of the glare.
So we don't even know what that thing's going to be doing.
It's going to be hidden.
What are you doing back
We're going to be
there?
so in the dark. We're going to have no idea where it is or what it's doing for like 3 or 4 weeks. Like, it's crazy.
I don't like that. Sneaky.
It is. It's weird. And it wouldn't be weird. Like, we would not even be talking about this if it wasn't for all these people stirring the pot. So like,
yeah,
like the actual like astrophysicists that are studying this, they're just like, hey, this is interesting. Let's study it. Right. And then you have all these other people like creating these narratives. And I'm not saying they're wrong, because we don't know. It could do anything at this point, but there's no data to suggest any of the things they're running with. So it's like, are they pumping it up for some other reason? Are they going to do some false flag thing? Is there some sort of other thing happening behind the scenes and they're using this just to stir the pot? I don't know, but it's weird to have so many prominent people basically, because like right now there's basically a 0.0001% chance this thing is a spaceship. Okay. Now there's still a chance it could come to us, stop behind the sun and do something weird. I don't know, but the odds are it's not, right? The odds are that it's just a comet. But these people are talking about it as if those are like almost like, you know, certainties, or at least there's a good percentage or chance that these things could happen. And to me, I'm just like, that's crazy that you would go there. Like, that's where I'm supposed to go, because I'm the crazy guy. They're not supposed to go there. They're supposed to be the rational people. So for them doing that makes me think, are y'all planning something?
That's what I'm saying. Because, you know, in this sort of, I don't pay attention to celestial bodies, but I'm a unhinged conspiracy theorist and have been for a long time. I remember when I was younger, there was like just a regular comet that was named, you know, because the amateur astronomer that discovered it, I guess, you know, it's not out of the norm to name them after those people. So this guy named Leonid Elenin discovered this comet. They named it Comet Elenin. And the internet for a period of a few months just broke out in a fever about that, saying Elenin is the wormwood from the Bible that goes in the water and makes a third of the waters bitter and all this crazy stuff. And I watched the conspiracy community, this is back in like 2007, 2008, become hyper fixated on this thing. And this guy, by the way, who's at the center of it, Leonid Ellen, and he's like, dude, I just saw the thing. And then there's a process through which you can report it. And then like it's named after me, which I think is cool. But now everybody thinks that he's like a government agent and this is the end of the world. And so there's no shortage of those sorts of events where I don't know what the determining factor is, but it'll spiral. And then all of a sudden there's this whole lore that develops around this meteor or whatever that's otherwise innocuous, and is not very different from any of the other ones. So I am erring on the side of like, this is just a thing. I've seen this happen before. Admittedly, I've not seen it to this scale. I've not seen it make it to, reputable publications. I've not seen it echoed by congressmen and random scientists from Harvard.
We're full-blown crazy right now.
We're full-blown crazy, dude. So what I will say is it kind of feels a lot like in the beginning of, because I was looking for, I saw an episode of like Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theorist back in 2009, and he had a woman on who was talking about they were going to use the labs to create some sort of chimeric virus, and then they were going to release it on the world, and they were then going to prescribe a very dangerous medical intervention, and don't take it. That was back in 2009. So I was looking for that for a long time. Thought it was going to be Ebola, thought it was going to be the Zika virus, thought it was going to be all these different things, swine flu, H1N1, blah 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 blah. By the time it rolls around, I go, nope, seen this before, not it. Then all of a sudden they lock the world down. So I'm kind of going through that same thing where I'm looking at this Comet situation. I go, hey, seen this before. This is not it. But that happened not too long ago, and I was super wrong about it. And I just can't figure any other reason other than them planning something for them to, not them, this is a colloquial for all these people to be clamoring to this event and speculating so out of pocket.
But it's not even like a planning. It's almost like there's a celestial event that happens, and for whatever reason, the global elite say we have to start like doing something. The thing that we're supposed to end up doing, like, oh damn, there it goes again, and then they'll start like moving, and they'll start just moving really fast toward something. And what they've been moving fast toward in the last couple of years has been disclosure, or at least the Mexican government coming out with a alien that's probably cake, and then
it looked just like the one from like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or one of those like really famous movies.
It's not significant if this stuff is real or not. What's significant is that they are presenting it in a way in which that we're supposed to perceive it as real, or the rank and file should perceive it as real. So now we have this thing passing, and it just feels like this is going to be this might actually be the last step before they really show us something compelling.
Both of these situations, by the way, whether it's this, alien disclosure thing, it's not lost on me that you can kind of funnel them both. You can use them to your advantage to start to consolidate like a world government, that sort of a thing, right? If you lock down the entire world because of a perceived pandemic, then that kind of shows you like you can lock down the entire world. One governing body could feasibly lock down the entire planet. Or if you're showing us that there's an alien force on the horizon and you're telling us that it's negative. Who was it? Eisenhower? I don't know who it was. No, it's not Eisenhower. Reagan, was it Ronald Reagan that gave that speech about like, imagine if the world could put their differences aside. If we had a threat that was outside of humanity, we would come together as one species. So obviously it fits in that bucket too. It just kind of makes me wonder,
I think it was Reagan's wife who said that what is it, millionaires like pay attention to the stock market, but billionaires pay attention to astrology.
JP Morgan, and that's
I don't know.
Morgan.
We're misquoting people.
We
Maybe
just
you know.
lie on this show, dude.
Yeah.
No. I mean, everything you said is completely right. And yeah, I think the quote is, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do, or that's one of the quotes. But just showing that like people behind the scenes, the elite people, they pay attention to all this stuff. And NASA is like super duper into the occult. I mean, timing is everything for them. They love. They pay a lot of attention to planets and stars and to the organization of things, and they plan their launches and that kind of stuff depending on astrology, and it's all occult based. And So maybe they're using this as like in a ritualistic manner. Maybe they are kind of conditioning the crowd, you know, the world, and kind of judging people's response, you know, kind of like they did before they did the whole event 201 thing or whatever thing where they did the mock thing. And a lot of times they'll do stuff first as like a simulation to see, they'll get their ducks in a row and they'll be like, okay, you know, they're learning, but then they're also kind of gauging how people react to it and stuff. So this could be like, okay, what do people do? Is there panic when we say that there's an alien mothership coming and it's going to release drones? Like, right? Now, that was all over the news. Did people panic? No, most people were like, they didn't even care. You know, it's like, it's weird, but people just didn't care. So it's like, are they judging our response that way, or are they trying to actually manifest it? Like this thing right now, we don't know what it is. And when you look into like how manifestation works in this world, basically everything, we have a probabilistic future. Everything is possibilities with probabilities assigned to them. So it's like those spaghetti models in hurricanes, right? You're in Florida. So like when hurricanes come, they're like, here's all the possible paths it'll take. And then they'll put probabilities on them. They'll say 80% chance it goes this way and 20% this way. So that's how our reality is constructed. And so you have these probabilistic paths, and maybe they're even trying to ratchet up the probability that it is aliens, because at this point it hasn't actually been determined what it is, you know. So I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're just having fun. Maybe they spend too much time on Twitter. I don't know, but but right now it's like anyone's guess, you know. It's crazy.
Well, you touched on something there. The occult tendencies of NASA is something to be considered. And when you look at these main figureheads in, I wouldn't, you know, you call it the New Age movement, but it's really old. There's nothing new under the sun. You have like Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, these characters, huge prominent figures within the occult, and they're famously pointing towards 2025 as being the beginning of a new age. And interchangeably, they use two expressions: a golden age, which is fascinating given Donald Trump and his tendency to use that in recent months, and then the age of Aquarius. And another thing that they said, and this is Blavatsky, Bailey, and then also the famous sort of mystic Baba Vanga, I believe was her name. She's like an old blind
prophet
kind of. Yeah, and she was a psychic or a clairvoyant who was very famous for predicting a number of events, including her own death. And one of them is that we would have contact with aliens. And this is, like I said, also from Blavatsky and Bailey in 2025. So, you know, there is a huge occult backdrop.
It's like, I guess the question, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The question is like, yeah, I feel like those things are true, but are they signified by the comet? Like, let's say the extraterrestrials see the comet and then they go, showtime,
it's popping off, time to go.
Yeah, or like which way is that relationship going?
Right.
Like, is it forcing them, or are they seeing it now as a time?
But you could look at their playbook and it's like they are adhering to this.
You
it's
could
very
see
obvious.
certainly, yes, something certainly your timeline's correct.
And it's obvious that these occult practitioners exist. They have a stranglehold in our own government, in the federal government, and all these different things, or else, you know, the Epstein situation would have just stopped at human trafficking and none of the strange backdrop would exist whatsoever. But still, what's injected into the public awareness leading up to is these ideas of Molech, child sacrifice, Babylonian deities, all kinds of things like that. And then all of a sudden it happens and it shuts the world down. But it's very obvious to anybody paying attention. Like, yeah, there's an occult backdrop to the government. There's an occult backdrop to NASA, right? These massive institutions in America here, and certainly the way that they got their footing, Jack Parsons, all that crap. These people, and that's very fascinating too, the way that it plays in with the space program. And that's where we're getting our information from. It's founded on these esoteric occult principles, and the very people within their community that are like their figureheads are predicting that, yeah, 2025, that's it, baby. That's aliens and the beginning of a new age.
I think we're on track. I mean, I've heard from several prominent people in the UFO world that aliens, and that's such a loaded word because there's so many different types of beings, but that the intelligent ones that are helping us, like kind of the gardeners, the tenders of this garden, they know that we have to be to a collective point, like this consciousness equilibrium, before they can really show themselves. So they're trying to get us there. It's kind of like if you went back in the caveman days and you like tossed them an iPhone, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They wouldn't have any concept. They wouldn't be able to plug it in. They wouldn't be able to call anyone. They'd have no idea. So you have to like kind of drip. Okay, you know, like you have to get them accustomed. So that's what they've been doing, is this drip disclosure. And I think that, you know, taking these opportunities, like, okay, 3i Atlas is coming. Let's pump up the whole, you know, alien hysteria, see how people act. Okay, cool. People aren't rioting. People aren't freaking out. Cool. We're getting more accustomed. It's almost like they take advantage of every opportunity to pump up the alien thing, because I'm hoping, not because of some Project Bluebeam type, you know, takeover thing that they're going to orchestrate, but that they know that there's this plan, there's this long plan that at a certain point, the ETs are going to have to intervene in our earthly affairs, because there's something that what I've been getting is that there's something coming up, and it's going to be an all hands on deck type thing. And at that point, they're going to have to kind of reveal themselves. And they know that if they did it now, most people would short circuit. Most people's like central nervous system couldn't take it. Most people would panic and freak out. It would put people in ontological shock because it doesn't jive with their religious beliefs and that kind of. So they're in this weird situation where they're like, okay, they're here to help us and to help us make it through whatever kind of an event is coming up, but they have to do it in this very behind the scenes subtle way, unless we can get to this like kind of consciousness maturity where we can kind of accept them and have this actual like conversation, and they don't have to do all these kind of behind the scenes stuff. And from what I've been told, there's people in the government that are very aware of all this, that do communicate with them and that kind of stuff, and know that, you know, there's a bigger timeline and a bigger picture and that kind of stuff. And so this whole drip disclosure is trying to navigate this minefield of like, okay, there's people in the government that have done bad things, killed people, stolen, lied, done all sorts of stuff to hide this. So they don't want to out them and send all these people to prison. There's corporations that have like exotic technologies that have been given stuff unfairly, that have an unfair advantage over other corporations. And once you disclose that, the other corporations sue and yada, yada. There's all these like layers to disclosure. So they're trying to navigate all these minefields while at the same time actually disclosing and telling the public, hey, aliens are real, they're coming, all these kinds of things to get us conditioned, because one day it probably will happen. You know what I mean? And they don't want people to freak out.
It's interesting because that narrative has been going on for a really long time. We've been discussing this on the show for a while now. Before it was aliens, before it was what we understand as like grays and things like that, it was coming from the Egyptian Ennead. So these people were channeling across a lot of different instances in very much the same fashion. So the phenomenon would take place very similarly. And the messaging in particular was very similar. And that messaging was humanity needs to ascend, and there was a coming disaster of sorts that we need to be able to navigate. But the variation is in the form of who is telling you the message. And it previously was identifying itself to people like Andrija Puharij. I think even what's his name? Aleister Crowley communicated with a pantheon of 9 entities. I don't know if they probably did identify themselves as the Ennead. The Ennead being the Egyptian Ennead, the 9 entities that ruled over ancient Egypt. And it's always the same message. It's this idea that we need to avoid this coming calamity. We need to ascend in some way, shape, or form. But I find it fascinating that like it kind of changes. And there are people like you might find his work interesting, Nathaniel Gillis, who tracks these sorts of things over history and shows you, he calls it the phenomenon. So we're hyper religious people, we'll call it demons. And I think there's definitely a discussion to be had there. He recognizes that it seemingly has changed its face and the way that it'll appear to an individual over time, a long period of time. He's looking at ancient texts, how all the elements are very similar, the way that the interactions will happen, the message that will be disseminated on these people, but it seemingly changes the visage of the individual or the creature or whatever that is passing on this information.
Well, sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's like ant people, and then the thing that approached Crowley, I believe it was Lamb.
Well, Lamb, and there was another one that he talked to, Awas, I believe, and I think he channeled that in the Great Pyramid.
These things have similar features, but sometimes they'll approach you. I mean, the 9 is a fascinating. We've done like a big deep dive on the 9, and that can go to the Egyptian Ennead, or that can be like Nordic mythology with the 9 dragons, or
and in the Egyptian Ennead, it's literally like a tomb. What is it? Hut, Tefnut, all these different characters, and it's literally that's the
they all carry the same characteristics across mythologies. And I have like a whole spreadsheet on it where there's like at least 7 to 10 different mythologies that have these 9 main gods, and the names are interchangeable, and even the looks sort of are interchangeable, but their characteristics remain the same. They just present themselves differently to different cultures and be like, hey, like, do you like this? And they go, yeah, I like the way that looks. And then they write books and they make statues about it. But it's like, it seems like the same phenomenon.
I was exposed to that when I was younger, but I was exposed to it in the form of, and I guess maybe the more recent rendition is the Galactic Federation of Light, which is the exact same narrative. Dear ones, they would call us ones. It's time for humanity to ascend. Yeah, the lady that we just watched. You talking about yesterday, right?
No, the lady that was speaking with 7.
Oh, 7. Yeah, 7 of the 9. So she was talking to 7 of the 9, and 7 saying it's time for humanity to ascend, and there's a coming calamity that they have to avoid. By the way,
you know how she was talking to him?
Oh, she was channeling.
No,
Ouija board.
Through the Ouija.
Right.
It's weird. I get suspicious.
Fringe. We've had her on the show. Really enjoy her. Lifelong abductee victim. She's a police officer, or what? She's a retired police officer now. She's been experiencing the alien abduction phenomenon for her entire life. And when I asked her, like, hey, do they have any like message? Because she's going through like regressive hypnosis. She's remembering. She goes, yeah, humanity has to ascend, and there's a coming disaster, like a polar shift.
Yeah, they got to prepare us for something.
We got to prepare for the polar shift. You look into the polar shift, and all of a sudden that comes up over and over and over again. But that calamity is one of the things that will vary throughout history. So it's like, what are you willing to accept? It's a comet impact.
Is it global warming? Is it a polar
nuclear
shift?
War, polar shift? But the disaster is always a wide, a global event, inescapable, except for by way of ascension. So I don't know where to place it nowadays, but it is. I like where Nathaniel Gillis goes, where it's like, whatever this is, a lot of people are having experience with what they think sometimes is flesh and blood entities, but then other times you realize that this is like a vision-based experience. Is it taking place in an astral realm? Does everything have to happen here in the physical? And if it doesn't happen here in the physical, does that mean it's dismissible? Doesn't seem that way. And if things are operating in an astral realm, well, then can they change the way they I know we just gave you a ton, Jordan, but it's something that we've been kind of orbiting for a while here on this show.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I try to do, is I try to like find the thread that goes through all these things, and the overlap. And, it's obvious that we have these cyclical cataclysms on Earth. That's kind of undeniable. There are these resets, and it's obvious that they obviously don't kill everybody because we're still here. But it's also very obvious that we've gone through pretty dramatic changes and shifts. And like Blavatsky, you mentioned her earlier, she talks about the different root races, and how we're on, I believe she calls us the 5th root race, or the 4th root race right now. It was the Lemurians, and then the Atlanteans, and then the Aryans, and then we're about to go into the next root race. And that at each cataclysm, each reset, the root race, the survivors from the previous one, help the next one. But the next ones are going to be different than the previous ones because everything changes. It's like Rudolf Steiner does a lot of work, or did, when he was alive, on Atlantis and Lemuria and that kind of stuff. And he goes in depth about the Atlanteans and how Earth was way different back then. And even the Lemurians before that, they were like more etheric beings. They weren't even fully physical. They were somewhere in between non-physical and physical. And then the Atlanteans were far more physical, but Earth was different. It was far denser. We had this like vapor canopy thing. Everything was bigger. That's why we had dinosaurs and big plants and big animals and stuff. So the humans were bigger, and everything was just different. And then, we had the Younger Dryas, whatever happened at that point, 12,500 years ago. And, we went into this new epoch. So we had new humans, and that was the Aryans. And Aryans doesn't mean, it's not like a racial thing. That's just what they were called at the time, just like Lemurians and Atlanteans and Aryans, according to
Doesn't
Blavatsky.
Blavatsky describe them as being basically like, I think it was like 15 cubits tall, but if you do the math on that, or maybe I'm interchanging cubits with the translation to feet, so they might have been like 15 feet tall or something like that. But this is what she suspected the Aryans were.
Yeah, I don't remember. But basically you can look at, so like what we call these extraterrestrials, a lot of them seem to be terrestrial, right? And there's actually a word for it, they call it ultra terrestrial, which is kind of like an alien from Earth.
Yeah.
And what they could be is just like remnants of these past, root races and these past civilizations, like breakaway civilizations. Like say 13,000 years ago, there was we had the Great Deluge, the flood. And I think each cataclysm is different, right? They're not always the same. So when we had the flood, imagine some humans survived. Say we had Atlanteans back then. They were already advanced 13,000 years ago and they survived. Okay, well, look how far we've come in, like, say, 200 years, right? 200 years ago, humans compared to now, I mean, we would be considered aliens or magical or whatever the hell, like people look at us like angels, and that's just 200 years. Well, imagine if there was humans on Earth 13,000 years ago that didn't reset. Maybe they went inside the Earth. Maybe they were protected somehow. Maybe they went inside the moon. Maybe they did something. And if they have developed unimpeded for 13,000 years, imagine how they would appear to us. They would appear like aliens or angels. They would be magical. They would, you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be able to comprehend it. So there's a good chance that what we call aliens are just past, alpha species on Earth that survived cataclysms, and their role is to help us and help the next ones survive the resets, because it's a cyclical thing, and they might even know exactly when it's coming. They might have some inside information kind of a thing, because they look at things different, and their role is to say, hey, we can't save everybody, but we're going to do our best to make sure that life continues on. Like that's kind of their managerial role. And it seems like that's what happens. They step in. They don't worry about people's daily life. They're not here to cure diseases and that kind of stuff. This is a free will experience, but they are here to make sure that everything doesn't get wiped out. So after every cataclysm, you always have these stories of like the Anunnaki or the sky people or the people that came from the water, and they have the handbags and they restart civilization. They teach people agriculture and finance and governance and that kind of stuff, and then they go away. Back in ancient Egypt, they actually lived side by side with the humans for a long time. It's on all the reliefs and all the artwork. It shows these gigantic beings, and people think even like Akhenaten was one of them, because he was gigantic, elongated skull, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it seems pretty obvious that there was past advanced humans that were wiped out in these calamities, but not all of them were wiped out, and the remnants of them are still here helping behind the scenes. That's what it seems like to me. But
I think we like on the show, we try to like really get into the, not just the definition of past humans, and I guess you'd call them because there are classifications, right? You'd have like a small g god, which it seems like if an alien did come back today, we would probably look at it as a god, and people would definitely be worshiping it because of the technology that it would bring.
Yeah.
But then
I believe that's even supposed to be part of like this whole new age thing, is once we're exposed to these aliens that the other religions would fall away and a new one would take it. So it's once again that one world governance, one world religion.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And then when you start to consider in the past, where we're talking about Nimrod, Nimrod became Gibborim,
right?
Which means like he was like these godlike entities, but was a human before. So we're talking about augmented transhumanization, which we're on the precipice of. I mean, we have AI. We are really leaning towards this in a very strange manner.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Neuralink implanted in your head and you have access to all of the information that exists on the internet at a thought or a whim, I would say that's a real leap in human development, and that person would have an advantage over other human beings that you might call godlike.
Oh yeah, for sure. Human beings wouldn't be able to compete with that. It's like the question is then, do we really want to ascend to that level? Are there drawbacks with that, or is that something that we're supposed to be aimed at. I think that's where people are having all kinds of crazy conversations, but that is the conversation I think on the horizon that really matters. It's like when we're presented that choice to ascend,
merge with technology.
Yeah, I think it might look like something merging is like, do you do it?
Yeah.
Do you even have a choice to do it?
Sometimes I go back and forth in that too. I'm like, if you do that, we were watching that clip where it's like the government has a back door to your technology for spying purposes. It's like, obviously,
yeah,
that's the case and has been the case for as long as we've had any kind of sufficient technology. But I go, well, they'd be able to control that technology that's in you, and could they just then control you? But then you think about like frequency warfare, heart attack guns, voice of God technology. It's like they've had the access to be able to do this thing. Your bio makeup has already been hijacked to whatever degree. Like they could, I'm not saying that
you can go down to flicker rate of your light bulb or TV.
Yeah, you see the one where it's like in Walmart and it's creating anxiety and the compulsion to shop or something like that. I'm like, I don't know, man, but it does. What I will say is,
but where do you stand on that, Jordan? On like that coming thing? Do you think that that's part of the enlightenment or the awakening that humanity is going to see? Do you think it'll be integrated with technology? Do you think that it's something more spiritual, conscious?
So I just did my Hopi prophecy video, and what they talked about is that when Lemuria fell, they were like the heart and the spirit. And then when Atlantis fell, it was like, the masculine and the feminine. So Atlantis was more, war, technology, that kind of stuff. And that the point of America right now is we're the battleground for the next spiritual test, where both of those elements come back, and we're supposed to unite them. We're supposed to synthesize and find a way to live in harmony with Earth and technology.
When iron mixed with clay, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't look at technology as bad. It's a tool. You can kill someone with a hammer, or you can build a house. It's all about how you use it. But when you study the Greys, especially, they seem to be far more interested in our consciousness. They study our sleep. They study our emotions. They study our consciousness. I theorize that. So like Friedrich Nietzsche was a great philosopher, and he had these two elements for like kind of the end days, and it was the last men and the Übermensch. The last men were like people that just kind of sat around and let the government spoon feed them, and the Übermensch were like fully empowered, fully activated humans that almost were like superhuman because they were so activated. And when I look at the two most reported UFO or alien encounters in the world right now are Greys and Nordics. And when you really break it down and you study Greys and Nordics, Greys seem to be disconnected from source. They seem to be like automatons. They seem to be hive-minded. They seem to be emotionless and cold, clinical. They don't smile. They don't tell jokes. They don't have a good time. They're kind of depressing characters. They seem like they have severed their connection and tie to source. The Nordics, just as like a stereotype and archetype, seem to be enlightened, a little more empathetic, that kind of stuff. So just using those as kind of a basis of like, okay, which direction should we go? I look at it like we need to be fully activated humans. Like humans have amazing potential. Like there's a lot of humans can do that we're not even scratching the surface. You mentioned telepathy, precognition, healing, manifestation, all sorts of things that we can do ourselves. We don't need technology, but we're told we can't do it. We're told it's woo-woo, so we don't even try. And now people are trying to create technologies to do all this stuff, and they want to implant technologies so they can do things that we already naturally can do. So I think that we're given kind of this test, and there's like this like bifurcation. There's like this fork in the road coming up where you're going to have a choice. Okay, take the easy route, stick some in your brain and whatever, and you'll have these abilities, or put in a little work, a little discipline, and learn how to do this stuff naturally. And I think that that's going to be kind of the road people are going to have to choose. And depending on how many people, kind of go which way, you have this tipping point. And humanity can either go to this like last men kind of, like lazy, automatons that the government has complete control over, or we can go the empowered route and, become like fully activated humans and kind of turn ourselves into like superheroes. Because I really think that's what our potential is. And doesn't mean you can't use technology. It just means you have to use it in this way where it's like this supplement. It's like a complement to your natural human ability as opposed to a replacement. Because
Yeah, like I like my phone, but I don't want it like in my head.
Yeah. It's like plastic surgery people. Like you'll see a chick and they'll be like, "Oh, I got bigger boobs." And you're like, "Cool, stop there." And they're like, "No, I'm getting a bigger ass, and I'm getting bigger lips and I'm getting bigger everything." It's like, "No, now it's gotten weird." So
Now you look like a monster cat.
yeah, so it's like it's the same thing. It's like a little bit's fine as long as it's like supplementing you and you don't. My main point in all this is that we have a tether to source consciousness. Like we're not alone here. Like, you know, only like 20 or 30% of our actual soul energy is in this body. The rest is in our higher self and the non-physical. We're kind of like characters in a game, and you're the character in the game. And you're also the character playing the game. Only part of you is in here. If we sever that connection, if we augment ourselves too much, and then you're no longer spiritually connected, then you're kind of lost in the game. Imagine being in a virtual reality game and you're stuck and you're lost. And
Yeah.
I get that impression from some of these aliens and stuff that maybe they're actually stuck in the game. They don't have that spiritual side. And that's why they're actually reverse engineering humans and trying to like hybridize humans and that kind of stuff, especially the Greys. They seem to be trying to reestablish that link. And I look at that as a cautionary tale. Like, don't go too far down that path, or it's not about augmenting yourself. It's about losing your spiritual connection. And when you do, you lose your ability to reincarnate, you lose your ability to connect to source, and then you're lost in the game. And you don't want to do that.
Well, it seems like we might be 12 days away from the beginning of some really funky, you know, if that's where it goes.
It's an interesting correlation, especially when you like we spoke with he's a deliverance minister, but specifically for satanic ritual abuse. And the idea is for these people is to impregnate a woman with I don't know, I guess you can call it a moon child or something like that. But it seems like the idea is like to have this vessel in which you can implant the consciousness.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the black-eyed children.
Yeah. It's like
and they what's funny is they'll abduct people again. And I think Karen Wilkinson has experienced this, where like the ETs, whatever you want to call them, these Greys will then show them their children, and these kids are like nonverbal autistic, and they're like, something's wrong with these. Can you like hug them? Like, I swear to you, if you listen to these abductee victims, like this is what they experience. They'll be shown their own children again who were, you know, they're impregnated, then the children go missing.
It gets crazy. I'm sure you've heard about it. And like, man, the overlap is just, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, because you're like, why do I read the same exact story over? Like you just told us, what you just explained to us was using different verbiage of what we've been saying, like interchanging God with source, interchanging the idea of this, like the consciousness to, or the, you know, your connection to your body. This is like a silver cord when we're talking about astral projection. It's all
even
the same
the idea of those beings being stuck here.
Yeah,
that sounds exactly like these you know, Nephilim that are created, and when their bodies decease, their spirit literally goes. They're literally stuck here, and their thing that they keep trying to do is either possess an individual,
reincarnate into something.
Reincarnate into some sort of vessel, you know, whatever, avatar or something like that. But it's like, they're stuck here. They got no place to go.
It's great how like every worldview tells the same. This is what the show's about.
It's totally parallel.
Yeah, it tells the same story, coming from a different direction, using different words, but we're all saying the same things throughout, even today, throughout mythology, throughout just current culture today.
Yeah,
you can name like five different, at least 10 different cultures maybe that are saying the same exact story.
Oh, if you look into the Vedics, it's like, you know,
word for word,
yeah, or imagery for imagery, or concept for concept, but the verbiage is a little bit different. Jordan, well, first off, I'd like to, you know, if you want to comment on that, but I want to respect your time too, because we're coming up on the hour 40 mark.
Yeah, no, I would just say, like, that's what I do in my show, Conscious Observers. Is the reason that I'm called an intuitive investigator is that, like, I'll do one show, I do 2 a week, and I'll do one, and it will like naturally lead to another one, and there will be like seemingly no connection. You'll be like, okay, how could this topic ever lead to this one? But there's like this red thread that seems to like go through all my shows, where one leads to another, and it's like, I feel like those crazy like CSI guys with all the like the boards behind them with all the pins and stuff, and it's like, but I don't set out to like make these connections. I don't even like kind of really know what my next show is going to be. I use this like intuitive, like kind of like guidance from like my last one to guide me to the next one. And so far, each one leads to the next one. And it's like, it's going somewhere. It just is.
Mhm.
It's headed somewhere, but I don't know exactly where. And like y'all said, when you study all these things, you find all this overlap, and they might call it different things and use different personifications and words for it, but a lot of it's describing the same things. So what I'm trying to do is figure that out. Like all this, it's like those Venn diagrams. Like all I care about is the overlap. That part in the middle where all the circles overlap, that part in the middle, that's the good. Like that's the important part. The rest of it's fluff and opinions and emotions and whatever. But like there's that overlap in the middle where every single thing, theology and religion and history and aliens and every single thing you can think of, there's going to be this one tiny part where every single thing overlaps, and it's like that's what I want to investigate.
That's the truth.
That brings me to my final and favorite question of the show. This is something that we ask everybody as we bring it to a close. Are you having fun? Not in this conversation, Jordan, but in your pursuits and what you do. Are you having fun?
Yeah, and I'm having fun with the conversation. Yeah, man, this place is crazy. It's bananas. Like, it's how could you not have fun? I mean, I understand it can be overwhelming and terrifying and all that stuff, but you have to just look at it and you have to find all the good stuff, right? Because if you just focus on the bad, you'll drive yourself crazy. And there's all sorts of good stuff that happens all day, every day. Most people are good. I don't care your background. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care where you're from. 99% of people are good, and they just want to have fun, have friends, go to work, do what they enjoy. Like that's 99% of the world. So focus on that. And just try to find the humor in things, because even in the twisted, there's always, it's like a dark comedy. There's always this weird little that's a good one. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of just like even when bad happens in my life, like I've had some very traumatic things. I've had near-death experiences and almost died a few times and all sorts of.
We should have talked.
Jeez, man,
talk about that, dude. You hit us with that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Addiction and all sorts of things. Like I've been through the gutters, and even all that stuff, I can look back and laugh about it. I can just be like, it's challenges, it's adversity. It's like I look at everything like a video game, and so you have to have fun with it. If not, you'll go crazy. It's the only way to make it through this world. And how can you not have fun? Because this place is bonkers.
Absolutely, dude. And that's where people get a little off put by us, because we have maybe too much fun.
Yeah, I'd give his answer an A+.
Yeah, dude.
Good for you,
You
dude.
have to have fun. You have to have fun.
Yes.
Let me tell you something, Jordan.
It means nothing, but fine.
I'll take it.
The points mean nothing. We've asked that question to all of our guests, and we've only ever had one person be like, fun. What are you talking about? Fun. And I was like, oh, this guy's not having fun.
We got to talk after the show.
But we have the pleasure of talking to people who are pursuing, the truth. And I think if you're pursuing that and you really want to know and you're earnestly doing that, it is fun, because dude, this whole experience is bonkers. This realm is bonkers. And so I'm glad to hear it, brother. Before we get out of here, Jordan, where can everybody find your work?
I have a website that y'all have graciously been scrolling across the bottom of the screen here for a while. digijordan.com. I have a podcast called Conscious Observers. It's on all the major podcasty things. And I do 2 episodes a week, and me and my wife do a Saturday night live Q&A on YouTube. And those are my main things. I have a brick and mortar here at the beach in Florida, where it's called The Space in Grayton Beach, where we do in-person stuff, all sorts of crazy spiritual shit. And I'm all over the place, but that's the main place you can find me. All my links and stuff are on my website.
Interesting. All right. I mean, you got to come back on, because I feel like I want to ask you about that stuff.
Yeah, well, we should have him on, and we'll either be saying, Jordan, it looks like all these people were crazy, or we'll be saying, Jordan, it looks like all these people were correct. And this 3-Eye Atlas thing turned into some sort of a nightmare. But either way, we'd love to have you back and talk about it and delve into some of those experiences.
Absolutely, guys. Anytime. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
All right. Perfect. Guys, thanks for hanging out. And until next time, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade them that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture.